Hello all, the Irrational Skeptic here, and today I'm going to be making a video on what makes each MBTI type spontaneous. It is an MBTI Decoded video, so it's part of my series where I just go into a little bit of the nuances of the MBTI. It is mostly for people who have, I guess, a kind of middle to upper understanding of the MBTI. But if you're a quick learner, you can probably pick up on what I'm saying, anyways. And there are some things that, or there's some material in here that you can appreciate whether you have deep knowledge of the MBTI or not. So let's get into it. Spontaneity is a kind of function of creativity. When any MBTI type is being spontaneous, they are having or they are leaving their dominant way of being in order to appease society or appease individuals in society. A concept I learned from socionics, more particularly Model G, from a YouTuber called Ben Vasserlin. You can check out his channel. I will link it in my description. He has great material on this. I won't be going too deep into it, but the concept is that our dominant function, along with all the functions that share the same vertness, are all functions that work on the behalf of society as a whole. And I suppose when I say the same vertness, I mean that if you are an introverted thinking dominant, for example, then all your other introverted functions that follow are also all working on the behalf of society. So for example, an INTP would have introverted thinking, then introverted sensing, introverted intuition, and then introverted feeling. And not in this specific order, of course, because in Model G socionics, things get moved around a little bit. But I'm not going to be going into that. What I am going to be going into is that, for example, in social psychology, there exists a similar concept that we have a public self and a private self. Also, if you are a writer or a creative writer, you do understand that when you're writing a story, you are comparing the individual's personal motivations to motivations of society as a whole. So what he's doing for society versus what he's doing for himself. When it comes to the MBTI, funny enough, when we use our spontaneous function or being ourselves function, we are in that individual or private mode. It is something that people will perceive to be genuinely you. It seems contradictory because the dominant function is what most theorists say our ego is attached to. So how could it then be that the functions associated with our private self are what makes people around us appreciate us more as humans? Well, this is precisely because the dominant function and all the other functions in that category, that is same vertness, carry a higher mission. This is also your true self, but in a more collective, unconscious sense. It plays the part in the story that works to drive society to a higher plane, whether it be one of physical existence, emotional existence, conceptual existence, or spiritual existence. In terms of the MBTI, the functions that relate to physical existence are sensing, that is, introverted sensing and extroverted sensing. The functions that relate to emotional existence are introverted feeling and extroverted feeling. The functions that are related to mental or conceptual existence are introverted thinking and extroverted thinking. Finally, the functions related to the spiritual qualities of our existence are introverted intuition and extroverted intuition. In reality, the order in which I listed these functions should map out against the actual direction of progression. That is, we first were able to sense things, feel things, touch things. Then we were able to feel things, and when I use the word feel now, I'm talking about emotional things. Then we were able to think about things. And finally, we became aware that we were none of these things in and of themselves, that we are rather spiritual beings that have a human body, or spiritual beings that have human bodies. In this explanation, I'm giving you a glimpse into the reality that exists as a result of our natural conscious tendency to ascend and climb upwards towards a higher plane. We can see the same thing play out in society. We first built mud huts. We hunted and chased things around. Or rather, we hunted and chased things around before we even built mud huts. We were completely immersed in a world of sensations and related our experience directly to this experience. I know using a word to in my definition isn't the best thing, but anyways. Next, we started wondering whether everything was permitted. We started to build a moral sense of things. This is good. That is bad. We should promote goodness and shun badness. This is certainly not arbitrary. And then we started to combine the world of sensation and feelings into a framework of what it means to be human with our thinking ability. And finally, after making so much progress, we started to realize that this was only part of a complete picture. We formed intuition, which is relatively a recent development in history, but I will not follow this line of thinking any further. You can go out there and do some research on your own, or I might make future videos about that. Who knows? I just wanted to give a grand picture of what the dominant functions are related to, why they are so stubborn and sure in and of themselves. Our spontaneity, therefore, comes from our auxiliary function. It changes the course of the ship in order to give it more character. It shows society that, hey, even if I am working for the good of society, I know how to have a good time. I'll go through some types and mention what their magic or spontaneous function would have to be. The INTP is a dominant introverted thinker, subjecting the world to mostly logical deduction. They constantly have syllogisms moving in their minds and drawing conclusions given certain premises. They like to check their premises for accuracy and become quite rigid or pedantic in thinking. When using their auxiliary function, the INTP can become quite charismatic and animated. They may start to joke around by saying random bits of information and relate them to the quirkiest things. For example, an INTP may say, "Have you ever wondered if the sun was just really a giant cheesecake? I mean, it is yellow and cheesecakes are yellow, so it makes sense." This might not be a thing that an INTP would say verbatim, but it is showing the playfulness of their extroverted intuition. It creates spontaneity. Let's use the ESTP as another example. They have the auxiliary function of introverted thinking. So how does one become spontaneous with introverted thinking? In the example above, I just said how the introverted thinker dominants are pretty rigid in their thinking. So when it comes as an auxiliary function, does it tend to have a different flavor? Well, for example, my boss is an ESTP. When she wants to be spontaneous, she will start to say things to you like, "Hey, why did you walk over there during your break? Ah, you just wanted to check out those girls, huh? I know they're pretty sexy, but this is a workplace, so you can't do that." Just kidding. Do that all you want. In this case, the ESTP is drawing playful like syllogisms. They are not intended to harm anyone and just showcase that even though she looks like a bulldozer most of the day, you can see my other video on the bulldozers, the ESTPs. She is actually just saying that she is capable of actually thinking in this playful way, and showing her creativity in that domain. Whereas, of course, we would usually like to think that ESTPs just move around the world, feeling, touching things, and not, really thinking about what they're doing. They're super extroverted, when at least when any introvert looks at them. But in this playful function, they give most people that have the thinking function, a glimpse into a reality that, hey, I can do that too. So finally, let's do our favorite type. Just kidding. But let's do the INFJ. They are constantly, usually immersed in another world altogether. Introverted intuition is a very heavy and high order function that makes one be almost afloat. When the INFJ comes back down to earth and use their extroverted feeling, they are able to quite literally influence the environment in magnetic ways. They throw some good energy to the left, some good energy to the right, distributing equally an amount of their personal storehouse of energy to uplift the environment. In this way, whether or not they perceive something in the environment in a spiritual manner, they won't pay attention to this information anymore when in this introverted feeling mode. When they are in this extroverted feeling mode. My mistake. Instead, they will spontaneously combust in laughter. They will become contagious and is proof and parcel of the magic that lays in our auxiliary function. So, I hope I have been able to convey why the auxiliary function is a spontaneous function and gives form to the person behind the personality. It is what lets us all know that you're not constantly working and actually having a life of your own. That is why people might subconsciously say to others, "Get a life." This is done in order to make you make more use of your auxiliary function, of course, as well as the other functions in the same vertness. But certainly, they cannot demand everything from you. You are only human. Well, that's it for this video. I will see you guys next time. Leave comments, like, share my content, and I will probably be continuing the Naruto series. I say something similar to this in the end of all my videos, and I end up just doing any video that comes to my mind that I feel needs to be said. So I might not do the Naruto series video. I may never do it again. Just kidding. But let's see whatever happens next time. The Irrational Skeptic signing off.